We'll give YouTube a moment as usual, I think. I am Drew Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com and the English Fluency Guide. Welcome to this month's, or I guess actually today's. I'm feeling a little bit tired today. Today's video, we've actually done a couple, I think, 2 others. I usually do these weekly, but we'll see. If you guys are enjoying them, let me know when I can continue. Anyway, as usual, we'll be talking about fluency and the one thing all fluent speakers have. And this is actually very easy to get no matter where you live or how old you are or how long you've been learning, even if you've been struggling. And I'm going to tell a quick story first, but all right, it looks like we are working. So we are getting, looks like C and George. Nice to see you there. Hopefully everyone is doing well. I'll see if maybe this video will not be another 2-hour stream, but we'll see how it goes if people have questions. Anyway, I wanted to begin with a quick story, and this happened yesterday, actually, not even 24 hours ago. So I was just doing some work, and I got a text from my wife, and she said, I'll write this here. I'm baking some pancakes. I'm baking some pancakes. And I said, oh, well, you know, I like pancakes, so those sound good. This was, I don't know, like an afternoon snack or something. So she said, I'm baking pancakes, and I said, actually, and I corrected her English, as we do sometimes. Sometimes she will correct my Japanese. I will correct her English. But what should this be? Does anyone know? Something is incorrect or odd about this sentence. I'll give people a moment. And if I see anything in the comments, first I'll respond to that. But is anything incorrect about this? I'm baking some pancakes. I'm baking some pancakes. All right. And this is, again, weird. YouTube, they just list the handle name, but not your actual name. So I don't, for some of these people well, I'm not even going to try to read some of these. Hello, Drew. Raul says hello. Kwandi, hello, everyone. There's a heart there. Well, it's nice to see you there. Haney, good to see you. And Adam says, hello, sir. I am still struggling. I can't understand better than months ago, but I can speak fluent. And I feel shy, afraid when I start speaking in front of other people. Wait a minute. Are you fluent or not? I don't understand. Like, you can speak fluently, but you are not fluently or not fluently speaking? What's the specific question here? I guess you could be a fluent speaker but still be shy in front of other people. Even native speakers might have that issue, but let me know more specifically. Well, Canero over there making, yep. The master right there, making. All right. Hi, thanks for sharing. River says, hello, good day watching from the Philippines. Look at that. Well, yes, Canero was correct. We're talking about making pancakes, and I asked my wife about that. I said, yes, you should say I'm making some pancakes. But then I asked her why. And Canero, can you tell me why we say making pancakes? Any idea? Anyone can answer this, by the way. But I got an interesting response from my wife when I asked her about this. So I said, you should say I'm making some pancakes, or I'm making pancakes instead of baking them, but why? So I saw recently an ad here on YouTube, actually, for, I forget the name of the company, but it's like a like kind of AI language checking, like a speaking partner kind of thing. And this was maybe you have seen this ad, but it showed like the AI robot person over here, and then the learner on this side. And I think I've talked about this before, but this is often how people think they should be improving. So the ad is specifically talking about like offering this kind of help. So the learner over here is looking a little bit sad, and they say something. They're like, yesterday I play the piano. And the AI is saying, oh, you mean yesterday yesterday you played the piano? So they correct the English, and the speaker says, yes, I played the piano. And then they went back and forth like this a few times. But there wasn't really the one thing that the student needed, which is not just the correction, but understanding why we do things. And I sent a mail to my student subscribers a couple of days ago talking about how my younger daughter, Noelle, who is 6 years old, she loves to ask me why, like many kids do. She will ask me a question about something, and then I will give her the answer, and she will say, why? And then I give her another answer, and she says, why is that? And we just continue going, why? And partly she is joking with me. Kids love to just ask why and see what happens, what parents will do. And sometimes I just ask, what do you think? Why do you think that is? Anyway, when people are trying to figure out how to speak a language, the thing that really stops them is they don't have a why for the things they want to say. And I don't mean a reason for it. It's more like actually how the language works. And so when you think about something like this, like I'm baking some pancakes. Now, my wife would use something like this because she's Japanese and she's getting this more from like a translation. Like you would just say like pancake yo yaku, like you would use that same kind of idea like baking in that way. And you could use it that way. But it would be incorrect, and I'll see if anybody else has an answer for that. But sometimes we're just learning from translations, and so we think maybe a word is used one way, and then we just use it in a different way in English, but people don't realize that, or they actually just don't know why something works. So maybe I can understand a grammar point, but I don't really know how to make it myself. I don't understand why I should make that. And so when I'm feeling uncertain about something, that's what's going to stop me from speaking. So the people who have this one thing, and that is the confidence to speak, those are the people who are actually able to express themselves. Because if you have any doubt about the things you want to say, of course, that's going to stop you from speaking. Now, in this case, again, I'm presuming, I'm guessing, I'm thinking probably, maybe, my wife said this because, again, it's coming from Japanese, and that's just naturally how a Japanese person would say it, because this is the verb you would use in Japanese to talk about making pancakes. But when you learn in English, like understanding the language as a first language, the same way a native does, you see people in this situation and they talk about making pancakes. Now, you can make lots of different things. Like make is a very useful word for talking about cooking, because what's really happening here is within cooking itself, you're basically like, you can talk about kind of cooking or making. So make is even more broad or more general. And then within that, we have different kinds of cooking. Like you could have actual baking something, or you could have deep frying something, or freeze drying, or other things like that. So more specific ways of describing things that you're cooking. But when you're cooking or making, you could say also like cook is another thing. But typically natives, I bet if you did a Google search right now, you would probably find more examples for making pancakes rather than cooking pancakes. But both of those words would be fine. Make is just typically more common. Anyway, this same idea when I asked my wife, why do you think we say make? And I think, did anyone, maybe Canaro, put a, let's see, example about that. Because we're making it in the pan. Well, there you go. Yes. And so partly like we're just talking about making because it's almost an interesting form of cooking where we're taking something and just basically making something on a flat, like in a pan or on a flat grill or griddle. And making is just a nice convenient word to say this, because typically when we bake something, it's inside an oven. So this is baking over here. So I could actually change this sentence here or change the idea I'm talking about. I could talk about I'm deep frying some pancakes. So actually, if I take some oil and I put them down, like the pancake mix inside the oil, I can deep fry some pancakes. Or I can fry some pancakes as well. I can bake some pancakes as well, like if I put a pancake in the oven and cook it that way. Okay? So all of these things are still making something, but they're just being more specific about the kind of making or the kind of cooking we're doing. But if my wife says I'm baking some pancakes, it means, okay, my brain thinks she's doing something in the oven, which you can do. Some people actually have recipes where you bake the pancake in an oven rather than try to cook it on a hot iron skillet or a pan or something like that. So we call them pancakes because they're coming like inside a pan, but the way we make them is actually depending on how we're actually making those things. So if it's, again, in an oven, we bake it, or we might fry it, or do something else to it. But that's why we do that. My wife actually had an interesting reaction when I said, "Why do we call it baking? Why do we say making, not baking?" And she said, "Because it's from scratch." And I thought that was a really clever response. And she honestly didn't know. Now she does, but she thought, and then she said, "You should use this as a lesson." And so I said, okay, yes, I can tell people this story. And it's a good example of often using language, although you don't really feel very confident about why you use it. Even if you use it correctly, you still might not know why we say certain things. Like people will use an idiom but not know where it came from, or not know why we use it. There are lots of different why questions that stop people from speaking. But when you do feel confident, when you do know what's going on, you can speak. I will just put this idea up here, from scratch. So my wife was asking that, to make something from scratch means you're beginning with all the ingredients. So it's not like taking a cake mix and you just put some milk or an egg in there and that's all you do. So that's not actually making it from scratch. It's like making from scratch would mean that you're really doing these things. Like you got the flour and the egg and the water and whatever the ingredients are, and then you mix them all together from the base ingredients. So you're not using a mix or something like that. So she thought, I use baking because I'm making it from scratch. And I said, no, it's just how you're actually cooking the pancakes. And you could bake some, or you could fry them, or you could do lots of other things with the pancakes as well. All right. So I thought today, just with this example, if you can think of, let's see, I'm baking from scratch as well. Yes. So you can bake things from scratch. It is possible to do. But the baking here has nothing to do with whether you're cooking the pancakes that you got from a mix, or you went out and you grew the wheat and raised the eggs and all of that stuff. It doesn't matter. The only thing here is just how you actually cook the pancake. Okay. So if I'm making some pancakes, I'm going to think, you're probably just putting them in a pan or on a grill or something like that in order to make them. But baking is the specific thing for cooking in an oven like that, to bake some pancakes. But yes, from scratch is a very good, or a very useful way to describe that kind of cooking. So some people, they know how to make something from scratch. Like I can make pasta from scratch. I can make my own noodles, or I can make my own pasta sauce from scratch, rather than trying to just get a mix or a jar of tomato sauce or something like that. All right, let's see. And we added, looks like another one here, because we add oil on pan and then make pancake, just the way we make omelet. Yeah. So again, there we would call, I'm usually grilling some pancakes, or people just call that making because it's a lot easier to say it that way. All right, hello guys, and Adam again says, no, I mean a few months ago I was struggling, but now I can understand if I speak with someone, but I can't respond or can't speak like him, like I have difficulty in forming sentences. I see. Oh, okay, all right, so that's a little bit different. So typically, and I talk about this actually in my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret. I'll put this up here. So most of the people who watch my videos, they already know quite a bit of English, especially they can understand what I'm saying because I'm usually not speaking too quickly or blending my words together or mumbling or having a difficult accent or using a lot of, idioms and things like that that people might not understand. But for most people, if you're in a regular conversation with a native, or even if you're watching movies and TV shows, that kind of thing, that speech is going to be much more difficult. But most people have a better level of understanding than speaking. So your speaking is at a lower level than your ability to understand. And just to make it clear why this is, and I talk about this in the book. So the strangest fluency secret. And so a lot of people, if they can understand but they can't speak, it's because you don't need to feel confident about every word when you're listening or when you're reading something. So I don't need to know how to make a grammar point if someone else made the grammar point for me and I'm just reading it or watching it or listening or whatever. But when I have to make that thing myself, I need to feel confident about every word. So if I have, let's say, a sentence here, I'm reading it or listening to it or something like that. Let's say there are, 6 words in that sentence. And I hear some of this and I actually don't know this word. I don't know what that word means. It's like yesterday I splurged on some jewelry. Let's write that. I'm just making this up as I go. So yesterday, I splurged, S-P-L-U-R-G-E-D. I splurged on some jewelry. Yesterday, I splurged on some jewelry. So yesterday I splurged on some jewelry. So maybe you know all of these other words, but you don't know what this one means. And in this sentence, it's actually more difficult to understand the context or using the context to understand what that word means if you don't know. Does anyone not know what splurged means? And if you don't know, could you guess from this sentence? Yesterday I splurged on some jewelry. And now we even have kind of splurge on. It's almost like a phrasal verb where you might not understand what that means, because that could be like I splurged on some jewelry. Maybe it means I broke something, or I bought something, or I sold something, or you don't really know what it means because the context of the sentence doesn't really make it clear. But if you get maybe some more sentences or you understand, then you can probably understand something even if you don't know what this means. Well, Canero says, as I recall, you taught this word once. What does it mean? Do you remember? To splurge is an interesting word, actually common word in native speech, but a lot of non-natives don't know it. But anyway, the same idea of having some words in a sentence, you can actually often understand. So to spend is close. To spend, close. So yesterday I spent some money on jewelry. You could say that, I spent some money, but splurge has a more specific meaning. It's not just spent. On expensive stuff, kind of. Splurge, it really just means that you're You're like, yeah, I'm not really caring about how much money I use or whatever. It's just, all right, let's have some fun and kind of waste some money, something like that, to splurge on something. So maybe usually I'm very tight with money. So I don't want to buy anything, but one day I go out to a store and I see, I don't know, a beautiful necklace that I just have to buy. So I splurged on it. Like I kind of recklessly spent more money than I usually would. All right, splurge. Yeah, so that's what I'm doing right now, explaining what splurge means. So again, when you hear something like this, there are some situations where maybe you can't understand what the sentence means. But if you see me there and I have like a bunch of rings and a new necklace and a crown on and I'm like, look at all this jewelry I bought, then you would probably think, okay, splurge probably means, like this person bought a lot of jewelry and maybe, for some reason, like if you know me and you never see me with any jewelry on, but now I've suddenly got some rings and necklace and a crown and other things like that. Like yesterday I splurged on some jewelry. You will probably think, okay, maybe I bought it, maybe I stole it even, but I probably wouldn't be showing it off like that. But there are often times when you can understand things even if you don't know every word. All right, that's a much more common thing. But when you speak, you actually need to know every word you're trying to say. You actually need to feel confident that, okay, this grammar structure is correct, or I know these words should be in this order, or if I'm using the correct vocabulary or not. So it's a much more challenging process to speak than it is to read or listen. Okay? So so what most people do, and they often wonder, so you will see many people on YouTube making videos about this topic, but why can I understand so much English but I struggle to speak? And this is the reason. It's because it's easier to understand things even if you don't know every word. You don't have to feel sure about every word to listen or read, but you do have to feel sure if you are speaking. And so if you are trying to make a sentence and maybe you are sure about these words, but you don't know about these, that's when you get stuck. So that's what actually stops people from speaking. They actually have some kind of question or doubt or other worry or something about using the language. And that's why people struggle to speak. So in my book, The Strangest Fluency Secret, I talk about how you actually overcome that, how you solve that problem. But it's basically eliminating or erasing the doubts. And the nice thing is you can do this before you speak. So that's what we're talking about in this video. But let me go back and see if anybody had any questions about anything, really. Let's see. But hopefully, Adam, that makes sense to you if you're talking about like difficulty in forming sentences. What you're saying is, I'm unsure, or I have questions, or I don't know why we use a particular thing. That's what you're saying. So it's easy to understand, but you don't feel sure about every word, and that's what stops you from speaking. And again, if you'd like to know how to fix that, we talk about this in pretty much every video I make, but I wrote the book because I really wanted to show people step by step how this works, because it's actually a very simple process when you realize, oh, I just need to understand those words and feel confident about using them. That's basically it. So if you eliminate any doubts you have, if you answer your questions, then you will feel sure about using your words, and you will speak well and listen well and all of that. All right, let's see. Guillermo says, hi, my name is Williams from Argentina. Nice to see you there. And Rola says hello. And Kwandi is you should practice listening and speaking. Yeah, so I don't actually... Like that kind of advice, you should practice listening and speaking, is not very helpful for people, although it sounds good because you're not really solving the actual problem. If I tell my students, like I did many years ago, so when I was a classroom teacher over 20 years ago, I told people the same thing. I said, just get out and speak. But I also struggled with the same issue because I was learning different languages and I couldn't speak, and it was difficult for me to do that too. But I still believed that's what you should do. Now, I discovered it's actually much easier to solve these issues even by yourself, just by getting lots of good examples of things, and then you can erase those doubts before you speak. That way you don't have to go out and try to practice, because it's quite difficult to go out and practice something that you just don't know how to do. So like the other thing I'm talking about in chapter 7 and probably in chapter 8 of the book when I release those, and I know I've been working on this for a while, but when I release those, I'll be talking about how the understanding is really the foundation. If you feel sure about your words, then you can move on to the practice part of trying to say things more quickly or trying to use things in different contexts or whatever. So that's the kind of thing where the practice is more about getting good at using what you know and you already feel confident about. So rather than trying to practice to understand something, which is much more difficult. Let's see. And C says, what have you been up to? Usual stuff. Tom says, morning, long time no see. Good to see you over there. Well, weren't you here a week ago? It hasn't been that long. Let's see. Hi, guys. Hi, teacher. I am a Brazilian Portuguese author looking to translate to English. What is your opinion on doing it in lives? I don't understand. You want to know like how to translate? What is your opinion on doing it in lives? Like you want to translate a book that you wrote on live videos? What do you mean by that? And guys, give him a like. Just 11 likes, really. Yes, if you enjoy the content, feel free to give it a like. Let's see, but I'm baking from scratch as well. There you go. Yes, you can make things from scratch or bake things from scratch. Deep frying pancakes sounds hilarious. Actually, there is a thing. It's not really deep frying pancakes, but this is often if you go to like a fair or a festival, that kind of thing in America, you will have what's called a funnel cake. A funnel cake. You know what this is? A funnel cake. I think I talked about this actually in a video. I think maybe in a lesson. But this is where you're actually deep frying what's basically pancake batter. So it's actually a pretty interesting situation. But you have this is a funnel. If you don't know what that is, so like a funnel. So a funnel, so this thing where you're putting water or something in there to make it go down here. But down here you have your oil, so a regular, like a vat, V-A-T. So this kind of thing, like a large container like this is called a vat. So a vat of oil, usually for deep frying things like French fries or whatever. But you take a funnel and then you have below that like a kind of, you can use like a sifting thing to make the funnel go through other little holes, or you can just take the funnel itself and you're pouring the pancake mix in the top of it, and then you move it around over the oil, and it makes this weird kind of design that looks like a bird nest, and that's called a funnel cake. So instead of a pancake where you're taking the same stuff and cooking it like in a pan, you are basically frying, like deep frying in oil, the funnel cake. And then after that, you take it and put some powdered sugar or some fruit or something like that on it. But that is a funnel cake. A funnel cake. There you go. You learn something new every day. But that's kind of common on like festivals or sporting events or something like that. I haven't had a funnel cake in a long time, but it'd be nice to have one. I think that could do kind of well in Japan. So Japan has little festivals like that, and they have these same kinds of little snack things. All right, let's see. How can I improve my listening? To talk with Indian people is so hard. Well, I mean, this is basically the same thing that I'm doing or that I recommend with Naturally Varied Review, the same thing I talk about in the Strangest Fluency Secret. But it doesn't matter who you're trying to understand better. You just need to focus on those kinds of speakers and get a nice range of variety for like listening to different people talking about stuff. So if I'm on YouTube right now, for example, I could find videos where it's like Indian people speaking English about doing something, whatever. It doesn't matter what the topic is. But if I find a few videos of people talking about that particular topic, and those could be people like, I don't know, in Canada, they don't have to be in India, actually. If you're just looking for like that particular accent or a certain way of speaking, you can find pretty much any kind of person or any kind of speaking like that, like Australian speakers or non-native speakers from India or China or wherever. You can usually find examples of that kind of stuff. So if you focus on listening to that and get some good variety, it will help you understand that English. All right, my guess was an irrational financial decision. Yes, that's basically it. Very good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, I'm pretty lazy today. Don't know why. It's okay. It's all right to be a little bit lazy today. All right, let's see. So Nicolay again says, can you speak more about why it can be harder to read from a script than going ad-lib? Harder to read from a script than going ad-lib. Usually it's the opposite, I guess. But for my purposes, like if you're talking about reading a script versus remembering a script, like let's say I have to do these videos and I'm trying to memorize a script and then say that particular thing, those videos are usually more difficult for me because I'm not good at trying to memorize the script and then repeating that. So some people maybe are like they are. I guess it depends on the situation. But in my case, part of the reason I do these videos live without any kind of script is because I'm trying to show an example of how people talk about things without a script. So in real life, you don't have a script, at least most people do not. And then if you're in a conversation and someone says something surprising or unexpected or you don't know how to respond, I'm trying to give examples of that. So when people ask me things, I have to maybe think for a moment, but I want to show you how that works. But I think a lot of people, depending on like whether they have a good script for something or if they're able to ad-lib better. Some people are good at doing that. And I prefer doing that. Like if I'm doing I don't know, if I have to do like a comedy movie or something, it's probably smarter to write some good jokes or plan something out. But you can have funny people doing good ad-libbing in movies as well. So it kind of depends on the person. But yeah, that's my take on that. Let's see. And C says, I understand because of you, but I forget it by time past. Yeah, well, you can have some understanding of something, but if you never use it or you don't review it in some way, you don't hear another example of it. You know, like I could learn new words actually quite easily in Japanese one day, and then I forget them if I don't get some kind of regular. It doesn't need to be repetition, like looking at a flashcard of something. Typically it's a slightly different example, that naturally varied review where things are slightly different in some way, and that will help you push things deeper into your mind if you don't have a way to speak. So if you're not actually using those things, you can still, like for me, even using English, sometimes I forget what English words are. Like I'll forget a particular word and think like, what is that word? And then I have to ask somebody or use a different word. So even native speakers can forget what they want to say sometimes. But if you're not speaking with people, that's okay. The easy thing is just to still get good input that's giving you that naturally varied review. Let's see. Next we got, hey Drew, long time no see. Good to see you, man. Well, good to see everybody out there. There's an ambulance siren ringing out there. Actually, I think, yeah, sometimes there usually is. Let's see. Happy to catch you live. Good evening from Venezuela. Yeah, I have written a script for a video essay, and when I read from it, I sound like a 60s white TV narrator. Yeah, like, and that's me. I mean, whenever I make, you can see it on my channel here. The videos I make where I write a script in advance and then try to say it. It just, I don't really like the way they sound. You know, I try to actually read it as if I'm just talking, like I'm talking now. But yeah, it can be a problem, and with a little bit of practice, you can not sound like a '60s white TV narrator. So he says, "What do you feel now about Japan after massive immigrants from India?" Well, I think the same thing happening in Japan is happening in many places. I'm actually, like where I am, I don't really experience that. It's a thing more in the larger cities. We do have more people, I guess, in some more people in Nagasaki, but it's not. I don't really notice a big change in immigration. But yeah, I think I don't know. I mean, I would imagine Japanese people, like, because they voted recently for more nationalist parties and people who are thinking more about Japan for the actual Japanese people rather than Japan as just like a country or whatever. I think probably more people are thinking about that. I don't really deal with it very much personally, but yeah, but that's my take on that. Is that Goch? All right, I'm not going to pronounce that well either. Wham. Maybe that says, what does it mean to ride a desk? Is that what you mean? Well, I saw that while I was watching something, watching a movie. All right, well, I'll tell you the same thing I told my daughter when she asks me, or I tell my daughter when she asks me questions like that. First, try to think about the situation, where you hear that and what's actually happening. Like, let's say we've got two police officers in some kind of like a crime show or whatever, and like one of them. So he's got here's the police hat. Does that look like a police hat? So here, like we've got this guy. He says, "Hey," like, and the other guy doesn't have the hat because he's not out walking around, but he's sitting behind a desk doing some desk work. And he says, "Hey, man, you know, how long have you been riding that desk? Or you should get out and start, I don't know, doing more things in the actual world or whatever. Like come out and go on patrol with me," something like that. So to ride a desk, from this context, what do you think that means? Yeah, so it's sitting at the table, but typically it means doing some kind of office work or something at a desk. That's why we say riding a desk, not riding a table, because the desk implies like schoolwork or work in a company or like a police station, something like that. And so, yeah, we would talk about riding a desk for that reason, and then you understand, okay, so this person, it just means working some kind of desk job, but it's usually like this guy has the cool job, yeah, so like doing some paperwork or something like that, but it's more about like for a longer period of time. So it's not like I'm just riding a desk for 1 hour today. Like even this guy probably has to do some paperwork at some point, but this guy actually, his job is to sit here at the desk all day and do that kind of stuff. So he's riding a desk. Okay, so actually, it's kind of a funny expression because he's not physically on top of the desk, but we would describe it in that way, to ride a desk. But again, this is a thing that we would talk about for someone who's working a kind of job like that for a period of time. So it's not just 1 hour working or something like that. Like, yeah, I'm busy, I have to ride a desk right quick. We wouldn't use it like that. We talk about like a career like that. So this guy is the cool cop, you know, he's out running around trying to catch the bad guys, and this guy's just riding a desk, you know. So kind of a less cool thing, but you see how I'm giving you different examples of this, and I'm trying to answer questions you might have as I'm explaining it. And so again, if I can help you answer that why, And it doesn't only just mean that question of like why something happens, but if I can give you confidence that you understand how it works and how to use it and when you can use it, when you cannot use it, if I answer those questions for you, you should feel pretty confident about using it. All right. Let's see here. Anybody else? This could be a pretty quick video. We'll see. Let's see. I'm practicing listening while Drew is speaking. There you go. Nice to see you again. Dave Matthews. Do I really I look like Dave Matthews? You know, I saw him one time in person years ago. So I worked at a sushi restaurant in Seattle, and he came in one day with, I guess, a group of people, and yeah, I was like, hey, is that me over there? Is that me? It's like, oh, no, I'm not you. I'm Dave Matthews. And I said, I see. Oh, so you live there. Cool. Good for them. Yes, I live in Japan, if that's what you're referring to. Hi, teacher. I'm a little bit late. Well, you got to hurry up. It's okay. You don't have to worry about being late for these. You can watch them anytime you like. All right. Let's see. She was a sir sitting at the table. Doing paperwork, thanks. And there you go. So whenever you hear things, and I talk about this again in the book, try to collect those clues. It's more, it seems like it takes a little bit longer, but you will remember it more easily that way. And when you just see something in a movie, like somebody says something, maybe you can't actually understand from the context, or it's not clear, like I gave the example earlier about like I splurged on some jewelry. So you don't really know what that means unless you can see me like, hey, I walked into the room and you've got a bunch of, like examples of jewelry and other things like that. Then it's easier to make that context or contextual connection. But if you can't, try to look for more clues, and that process will help you understand it better. All right, let's see, Access again. You mentioned the word funnel in the funnel cake example. My question is, could funnel be used as a verb to funnel something, for example? Yeah, and so here again, we have another good why or what or could something here like be used in a particular way. And yes, I can use a funnel, just draw my funnel again here. I can funnel people into a particular system, or I can, funnel, let's see, what are some other things we could funnel? But yes, you can, we can also funnel, pancake mix into a vat of oil if we're talking about it as a verb as well. But yes, to funnel things, that can work. So again, your brain is thinking, oh, here's a new word, or here's something interesting. Could I use it this way? Could I do that? And so when your brain has these questions, if you answer them, and this is a natural process, people want, your brain is trying to do that anyway. So you're thinking, okay, here's a word. How can I use it? Is it okay in this context or not in that context or whatever? So excellent. Like these are all good things that people do naturally. And those are the things you should be doing if you want to build fluency. And it's much easier, I mentioned this in chapter 7 as well, about how it's a lot easier to build fluency in the vocabulary you already know rather than trying to learn a bunch of new words. So you can do both of those things. You can feel more confident about your current vocabulary and learn new things. But a lot of people don't feel confident about the words they know, and they're trying to learn new things, and they don't really feel confident about using those things either. So that happens a lot more commonly, and that's why a lot of people can understand a lot of English but struggle to speak. All right, and Danny says, yeah, you told me about it, but for me, you really look like Dave Matthews. All right, yeah, I don't know. I guess nobody is. I don't think anyone has ever told me I look like Dave Matthews. When I was younger, people said I look like Mr. Bean, and maybe somebody thinks that. In Japan, it's kind of interesting because I look different, and people have a like white people in America would have a different, you might say like I look like Dave Matthews, but out in Japan, either you don't know who that is anyway, or you might not make that connection. But people say I look like John Reno, the French actor from like The Professional, that movie, Jean Reno. Or even when I came to Japan, people like many years ago, they thought I looked like Sylvester Stallone. And I don't look anything like Sylvester Stallone, but I can see how maybe people might say something like that. But I kind of joke with them. I say like everyone out here looks like Ichiro, Ichiro Suzuki, the baseball player. Let's see. Damn, you do look like him. Yeah, I suppose I could kind of look like I was getting a haircut the other day, and the barber was like, you look like Jean Reno. Like, what's the name of that guy from? and he actually is in some Japanese commercials, I think. Like he has been. I haven't seen him recently, but I know he has been. So older people would know who he is for sure. But nobody, it was interesting. Nobody really said I looked like Jean Reno when I was younger back in America, but it happens. Anyway, so again, I just wanted to make this quick video and answer any questions people might have. With each answer you get, you become a more confident speaker. That's really how the process works. And so if you'd like to learn more about that, I show you actually how to do this step by step. It's really just about getting the right kind of naturally varied review for all of the different things. And this same process works for pronunciation or vocabulary, or even preparing yourself for real conversations and knowing how to respond when people say things that maybe are unexpected or whatever. But the book goes through all of that. And if you'd like to learn more about that, you can click on the link in the description below this video. All right, Nikolai again. From what I know, Japan loves him, and they had a video game with him as the protagonist. Really? With Jean Reno in it? That's interesting. If you can Google that and see if you can find it, let me know what game that is, because I don't know if there was a video game with it. But yeah, I mean he was certainly a popular actor. Is it really gaining a grasp? Is it really gaining a grasp of that fluency? Or any experienced teacher like you can say, how long does it take to get fluent from intermediate or advanced level in learners not native intermediate or native advanced? It can be tricky. I actually don't. Let me read this again. Is it really gaining a grasp of that fluency, or is your question, is gaining a grasp of something fluency? I don't know if that's just worded incorrectly, or you're asking me something different. But just in general, I'll explain that it's a lot easier to think about fluency as something you gain word by word when you feel confident about using something. So often what happens is you will learn, and it doesn't matter what this is, it could be any vocabulary, but you will learn things and feel confident about using some of them. So you can think about this, I talked about this actually like a while ago, where you learn a new word or phrase and you will go through phases, a phase of different levels of understanding. Onimusha? Really? He was in that? Oh, wow. Huh. Anyway, yeah, I only played the first one many years ago. I think they're remaking that, though, possibly. Anyway, so you begin with zero understanding, which makes sense if you don't know what a word is. And then when you hear it, maybe you have a little bit of understanding. You kind of get what it is, like we just talked about today. S-P-L-U-R-G-E, to splurge on something. So maybe that's a new word for people. The first time you hear it, you go from 0 to like, I don't know, 10% maybe. And this isn't exact math. It's just understanding how you feel more confident about using something as you understand it better. So this is not about repeating the word. Go home and put it on a flashcard and say the word splurge 10 times. The idea is to actually understand what it means, how to say it, when you can use it, when you cannot use it. If you answer those questions for yourself, you will actually develop fluency in using this word. And that's why there are some things that you can use really well and other things maybe you're not so good at using. Maybe you can talk about some things but not talk about others. So when I explain to people like, how quickly can you go from not understanding something to using it fluently, it can happen very quickly. It can happen in like 10 seconds or a minute or really however long it takes for your brain to understand what something means. So if you have questions about something, you need to answer those questions. And each time you answer a question, this understanding level goes up until you feel 100% confident really about using something. Okay? So when we're talking about understanding things, instead of talking about like as a general, maybe knowing some words but not knowing others, and how you feel confident about some things and not feel confident about using others, it's a lot easier to think about it that way than just talking about like intermediate native or non-native or any of those bigger terms. It's more like you just need to show yourself how quickly you can go from one thing to something else, like going from, or I guess not this over here, but this, like going from just learning something to actually feeling confident about using it. And that's what I use as a measurement for how quickly I want to talk about getting fluent in whatever. All right. So this is not about like how many years does it take to get fluent. It's more how quickly can you get fluent in one thing, and then you just apply that same thing again and again to learning others, and then that will make you feel a lot more confident about speaking. But it looks like you had a follow-up question about that. Let's see. And Prasad says, hello, good morning, and all vlogs again. I totally got it. Can you put a certain time limit from certain level to the next one, from A1 to native? By each level, I mean talking about time frame. No, because it depends on the person, how quickly you're getting these these moments where you actually feel more certain about something. So let me give you like an example of this. This is actually from the book as well, and we have some new people on the video today, so I thought this might be, just thinking about it right now, where people talk about like language learning and how long it takes and how long it should take. So for me, years ago, I thought language learning was or should be or is a long and difficult process. But it doesn't have to be. It's really about how you learn and how quickly you can give your brain understanding and certainty that you can use something. So that's really the idea. And so if you take two people and you start them in two different kinds of lessons, one person could become fluent in a month, and that maybe they don't know how to talk about everything, but they could learn to speak very quickly about lots of different topics because they feel very good about maybe a limited vocabulary. And then you have another person who is still struggling to say basic things because they don't actually understand what they're using. So I'll give you an example from the book. So this is from The Strangest Fluency Secret, but it makes a very clear point about this typical way that people are learning languages. So I'll teach you, and if you know what this is, don't spoil it for other people because it's good for them to get the aha moment of how this works. But I'm going to teach you an alien language, just the numbers very quickly. So let's see, we'll put it here. So you already know these are Arabic numerals here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All those fit in there. Looks like they just fit. Now, I'm going to give you the alien numbers I want to teach you in a new language. And this is typically how language learning works. So the teacher just gives you information, and then it's your job to memorize it and try to review it, and maybe you speak, and hopefully, eventually, if you repeat something enough, you will feel confident about using it. But most of the time, that does not happen for people because they just don't understand what they're learning. So I'm going to give you the alien examples over here. And so these are the alien numbers. And I'm going to give you a quiz in a moment, but if you already know this, don't spoil it for people. But for the new people here, if you have not seen this example before and you do not have the book, The Strangest Fluency Secret, which you can get by clicking on the link in the description below this video, just take a few moments right now and see if you can memorize these. So I'm telling you, this is basically learning through translation. We've got one, and then this is, you can just imagine they're sounding the same thing. But can you learn those numbers and remember them? Let's see what you can do. I'll give you a little bit of time before I actually teach you something about this. But this is what a typical language learning lesson is like. Most people are actually learning through translations. So if you're a Spanish speaker or a Portuguese or Chinese or whatever, you're typically learning English through that language rather than learning English in English as a first language, like the way I teach. But even many people who, like, you can have an English teacher here on YouTube that will be teaching you English in English, but they're still just giving you more information or rules to memorize, but not really giving you understanding. And it's the understanding, it's those aha moments that move you closer to using something fluently. So I'll give you an example of how that works in just a minute. But let's see. English at night, that's an interesting name. Kick off versus kick out. The game kicks off or the game kicks out. Now, before I answer that, why do you think it would be one versus the other? So you try to do a little bit of thinking about that, because typically phrasal verbs like those, they do have some kind of idea behind them about why we would do that. So kicking off versus kicking out, why do you think we might talk about one or the other? Ahmad says, when I learn new vocabulary, some vocabulary I can't understand it through the context. What should I do to avoid translation? Oh, just get more example sentences in English. You don't have to use a translation. Like if there's a target word you have, I actually use in the book, I give you a specific like Chat GPT prompt that will actually teach you like a native. You can just put whatever word it is you want to learn, and it will explain it to you like that, like I give you that example. But that's basically it, where you just need to get the right kind of examples that answer those questions, like we've been talking about in this video. So if your brain is thinking, okay, I understand this word, but I don't know if I can use it in this context, or I don't actually know how to pronounce it correctly, or whatever, if you answer those questions, you will feel confident about using it. And that's where the fluency comes from. All right, so let's go back to this question and we'll see if we get a response about kick off versus kick out. But typically, again, when people are teaching languages like this, I'm not actually teaching you anything here. I'm just giving you information. You could find this in a textbook or whatever, but I haven't taught you anything. Does anybody have, if I give you a quiz, would anybody be able to do it? Let me erase these over here. And we'll give you a quick quiz and see if anybody can, let's see. Okay. Now, if you can just take these numbers and give me the translation for that, if you can give it back to me, then maybe you remembered that. But even if you can do this, you will probably not remember these examples tomorrow. Because I haven't taught you anything yet, all right? I'm just giving you information. Giving you information is not giving you understanding, and that's, again, what really stops people from using things fluently. I give you 10 more seconds. Just let me know, give this a try if you can translate this. Anybody? Let me get a quick swig of water. A quick swig of water. I'll teach you another quick. A swig of water. Now let's see if you can understand what that means from the context. A quick swig of water. A quick swig of water. If you got the aha moment there, if you thought, oh, like a swig, it's like it's just like a quick drink. A swig of water. Let me get a swig of beer or a swig of water, something like that. All right. Any ideas? Nobody? Did anyone get all of them correct? Let's find out. I'm going to translate this for you. Let's see who's got it correct. What number is that? Can you remember? Well, Axis already knows. Yes, Axis has the book and probably also has seen this example before. But anybody? Nobody? All right. Let's see here. That one kind of looks easy for people. It's like they look kind of similar, you know. Let's see here. Okay. All right, if anybody got all those correct, fantastic. If you did not, or maybe you were being lazy and you didn't try to solve this anyway, I don't blame you. It's okay. But let's we'll go back and we'll put these up here. But again, I still have not taught you anything, but this is basically what traditional language learning is like. It's just giving you information, but not really giving you understanding, and the understanding is what allows you to speak. So let's put our numbers back up here again, and so we can look at these again. We'll put this here. Okay, so if I'm going to translate these, and if I'm just actually not teaching you anything, most people would just keep on learning like this. You would make some flashcards and put these examples on them, and hopefully if you review them enough times, or you can think of a way to connect these, like the number 7 looks pretty similar, something like that. But it's a lot easier if we can use something, if I can help you make a connection, connect this information with this information, which is a lot easier for you to already know. So was this example about memorization versus intuition, about pattern recognition? Well, you're going to see what the example is in just a moment. So let me erase these over here. When you're learning a language or really learning anything, the goal is always to try to make some kind of connection between what you're learning and what you're, maybe what you already know, or like really anything like that, because the connection, that's what kind of allows the new information to get into your mind. So if we take this, do you see it yet? 1, 2, 3. So if you understand something like this, you can think, you get that aha moment of connection where these things are actually connected. Even if that's not what the aliens intended, that's how you can make that connection and actually understand these a lot more easily. So when I go now, if I give you a bunch of these things, like I could give you 1,000 of those, and you could probably feel pretty confident about translating them. And you would probably also remember this for a very long time. But all I've really done is just made a connection here, and that's really the job of the teacher, to help you make that connection. And if you're not learning with a teacher, you still need to be able to make those connections by yourself, but that's what actually builds your fluency. So again, we want to answer questions for ourselves. This is really an example of how a mnemonic works. So like you're mentioning a memory aid, trying to show how something works, but stories or visual examples or anything else like that, like I'll give you an example in just a minute, works in the same way. Okay, but this is actually how we want to be learning a language. We want to find a way to connect with the information we're learning, and it's a lot easier to do that if we're learning in English rather than learning through translation. So we don't want to just translate stuff. We actually want to see the information in an understandable way. Now, you probably know this as comprehensible input. This is where we're trying to understand things in the language itself, but the goal is not just lots of input. The goal is to get to certainty and confidence so that you actually feel like good about using something like that, whatever it is. So what would a less abstract example be? So for example, we have the, I didn't get a response about kick off versus kick out, but specifically learning new vocabulary in this way, lots of learners, either they're beginning with the translation and then trying to just learn the English, whatever that is, or they just get some word, like we've got the examples, so kick off and kick out. And if you look at just words or phrases like this individually, with no context, you don't understand why we're using them, it's really difficult to understand the difference between these two things. And so, like in the case of explaining to people the Strangest Fluency Secret, we want to show people how you can feel confident about something by not just looking at the words like individually or in isolation, but actually showing how they connect in context. So for example, this is a common example I give, like fall over versus fall down. And so I can demonstrate this and help you understand the English in English by connecting the words with the context rather than connecting the words with some translation or some other information that it's not really going to be necessary or that helpful. So here we have a marker. I'm going to drop it like this. Here the marker falls down, fall down, fall down. Here the marker falls over. You can see it falling to the side like that, fall over. So if I have a marker or like a pencil or something in my hand, I let go, it's going to fall over. It's going to fall over. See how it falls to the side like that. So when you see the difference, and you might not remember that, but it's a lot easier to understand it, and then maybe you get a few extra examples, but then it becomes automatic for you, and you know the difference between falling down versus falling over. Now, in the case of kick off versus kick out, it's really important to understand that, that context of when people are actually using specific vocabulary, so you can see the difference. Now, if you think about kicking off something versus kicking something out, so we have the verb here to kick, so you probably get what that means. If we have, let's say there's a ball inside this area, and I kick the ball outside of that area, then I have kicked the ball out. Like I'm playing, soccer or whatever. Here's a soccer field, the ball is here, and the ball gets kicked off of the field like that, so it's actually being kicked out of this area, okay? So I could talk about like the ball is being on the field here, or now if the ball is up in the air, the ball is off. So we have on versus off, or we have in versus out. So we could describe it in both of those ways. But that would be to kick something out. Like I would remove something from one place and put it in a different one. Like if I have a cat inside that I don't like, I can get rid of that cat. I can throw it outside. I've kicked out the cat. So even if I don't physically kick something, I'm removing it quickly, getting it from inside someplace to someplace else. But when we talk about kick off, it's again that same idea. We have something on the field and something off the field. And so at the beginning, typically, of something like an American football game, you have a guy, here's the football helmet, and he's gonna run and he's gonna kick a ball, like usually at the beginning of the actual football game. You have the football here, and it's on a little tee, a tee. And he's gonna kick that, and he literally kicks the football off the field. And so we call this the kickoff, where we're going to understand the beginning of the game in that way. So he kicks the ball like off of the tee, and that phrase now begins the game, to kick something off. And because we get it from this, and most people understand it's kind of the start of something, usually at like a soccer game as well, or like football, like European football like that. The same kind of idea. So we start the ball here, and then we're going to kick the ball and move it from that location, and that begins the game. So that's why we call it a kickoff. So the beginning of a football game or some other kind of sporting event like that, now, even if we're not physically kicking anything, we can talk about the beginning of other things. I can talk about the beginning of this lesson. It's time to kick off the video. It's time to kick off the business meeting. It's time to kick off the party. Okay? So often when we learn phrasal verbs in this way, if you can see actually the origin of it and understand why it works, then you can start using it in other situations. And this is why native English can seem like a confusing thing, but it's actually quite simple if you make the connections. Okay? It's again making connections with things that help your brain understand, that help your brain answer those questions for yourself, but that will help you understand and use it confidently. That's the idea. So the person who asked that, hopefully, if they are still around, or really anybody else, now you can get the idea from that. So let me know, Nicolay, also if that was a concrete enough example for you. Axis again says we should learn in a specific situation and more importantly with its surroundings. Yes. And so again, you want to give something, whatever is the smallest, simplest, easiest way to make a connection with some information, whatever it is. It could be information you already know. It could be information like I'm teaching you something like I've done this before, like the Japanese example, like, これはマーカー、ね、マーカー、マーカー、マーカー、青いマーカー、青、青いマーカー、黒、黒いマーカー、赤、赤いマーカー、青いマーカー、黒いマーカー、赤いマーカー. And so I could continue teaching Japanese in this way and you would start understanding it. You might not remember these words today, but if you heard them again tomorrow and you started making those connections, you would begin speaking because you would feel sure about using the words. That's how it works. So I don't need to use your native language to teach you English. I don't need to use your native language to teach you Japanese or whatever. But it's basically understanding how things work all in English. Let's see. I looked. You definitely have something in common. I came across a phrase about the car's creator. So to ask about the brand of car, you need to ask what make is it? Is that correct? Yeah. So we've got like the make and the model for cars. The make and the model. So the make is like what company produced it, and there are separate sub brands within like a particular company. So they've got a make of a car like it's a Toyota, and then we have a model like a Toyota, whatever the actual name of that model is. T is a new word to me. It reminds me of the Zettelkasten note-taking method. I don't know what that is, but okay, if that's correct. Anyway, yes, if this person or whatever that if that example is talking about making connections and helping you understand the language better through connections, then yes, that would be the idea. But again, the whole point is the fluency and the speaking ability comes from you answering those questions. And so if you have any doubts about using particular words or phrases, that's what's going to stop you from speaking. All right? That's the basic idea. But if you would like to learn more about this, I go into much more detail, and it's actually quite simple, but I really want to make sure people, the Toyota 4Runner. I actually had one of those years ago, a 4Runner. But if you'd like to learn more, you can find out by clicking on the link in the description below this video to get the Strangest Fluency Secret. Can we use make as a noun? Yes, you can. So what make of car is that? You can say that, using it as a noun in that way. Like what make is it? All right, look at that. We got through in less than, well, actually we went over an hour, but still, that was pretty good. But hopefully you have enjoyed this. If you have, you can click the like button. But remember, like I'm doing in every video, the idea is really to help you understand things. If you can eliminate those doubts and answer those questions for yourself, that's what will unlock your ability to speak. So it's not about spending a lot of time doing something. The goal is how quickly can we erase those doubts? And the faster you do that, the faster you will become a confident speaker. All right, let's see, a note-taking and knowledge management system where each note contains a single idea is written in your own words and is connected to other notes to create a web of interconnected thoughts. Yeah, that's basically the idea. So whatever that is, like it's basically mirroring the way your mind would work. So the brain works in those similar kinds of connections as well. So if we're trying to force ourselves to remember something through a translation, then learning is going to be a lot more difficult for you. But if you can actually make connections with those things, that will help you speak. All right, well, it says, thank you. And English at Night says, see you, Drew. And C says, have you taken your breakfast? Well, we wouldn't take breakfast in that way, really. It's more like, have you had breakfast or have you eaten breakfast? Yes, I have, actually. Taken is more like, it's kind of an older way of describing that, maybe like kind of older English usage of that, but people don't typically like talk about that unless, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like an upper class thing, kind of like that, like I'll take breakfast upstairs, like I will have breakfast or whatever, but typically we don't talk about taking breakfast. It's more like taking medicine these days, although maybe years ago people could have used it that way. All right, it was a great interaction. Thanks and all the best. Well, thank you for joining me. If you have enjoyed this interaction, do leave a like. You can interact with the like button now. And have you taken someone to if you're talking about taking someone to breakfast, then you can use it in that way. I wish I could send you some funnel cakes. They probably wouldn't be very good by the time they arrive, but it's very easy to make. If you can make funnel cakes and you have some oil, there you go. You can make some funnel cakes and just put a little powdered sugar on the top. They're quite tasty. Put some fruit or other things like that. Anyway, I will leave you all with that quick recipe so you can enjoy making your own funnel cakes. It might actually be good if you're interested in that. Go watch some YouTube videos about people making funnel cakes. I guarantee you will learn a lot more English that way than just by trying to, study a bunch of random vocabulary. Pick a topic, focus on that, get a nice collection of naturally varied review, just like I describe in the book, and you will become a more confident speaker, even if you don't have someone to practice with yet. Have a fantastic day. Click on the links in the description if you'd like to learn more about those, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.